Uh, we will be Hello everyone, and welcome to the Customer Service Summit meeting. My name is Jan, and I'll be moderating today's call. Our speaker today is Jay Kriner, Customer Care Manager, Conair Group, presenting Developing a World-Class Customer Support Strategy. We'll turn to the presentation in just a moment, but first I want to go over the web conference instructions. Everyone is currently in mute so that the background noise does not become distracting for the other participants. To view today's presentation as the screens change live, you may go to the link that was sent to you in your reminder email. Once in there, you may click anywhere on the page to get a pop-up with the option to make a comment. Feel free to ask questions by typing them as a comment, and we'll make sure all of them are answered. For the newer participants in the group, it might be useful to review some of the main benefits you can take advantage of as a member at no additional charge. First are the live monthly web conference meetings, which you've already dialed into today. I hope you find these useful, and we have an excellent lineup which you can see by going to our website schedule page. Second, we do record all of these. So if you're traveling or stuck in another meeting, simply log in at your leisure, and the full archives of past meetings are available to you with a number of interesting topics. Third, get to know the other members. By logging in, you can see all of their profiles, and we're glad to make any introductions if wished. Fourth, if you're wrestling with any key issues or decisions, we strongly encourage you to reach out to the other members. And our site makes it very easy to post questions. The seniority and experience of your fellow members make this the best possible forum to get advice from others who've probably dealt with the same issues and can give you sound advice on what worked and what did not. Fifth, we really encourage site visits. If you've not visited others' offices to have a great discussion on best practices and see their facilities, please do so. You can log in to see the other members' companies and cities, so feel free to reach out, or as mentioned, we're happy to make introductions. Sixth, we also generate executive summaries of meetings, including the key takeaways and learning nuggets, so that you can reference them and put them right into action. Seventh, our members are very busy, so we started a service where we pick out the top 6 most interesting articles among thousands at hundreds of sites to keep you abreast and ensure you don't miss the key ones. Lastly is our Book of the Month summary that you can either read or listen to as you commute. Each month we'll be selecting the most interesting book, then summarizing the ideas so within minutes you can absorb the key takeaways. There are other benefits, of course, but I wanted to highlight some and ask you to keep a lookout in your inbox for a number of these each month. That takes care of the housekeeping items. Give me just a moment to pull up the speaker's presentation and introduce him. Okay, all set. Now, before I turn the call over, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our speaker today. Jay Kriner manages a team of professionals who assist customers with their equipment installation, startup, troubleshooting, and repair. Prior to joining Conair in 2016, Jay worked 30 years in maintenance and reliability supervision for the U.S. Coast Guard and the U.S. Navy. A graduate of the Navy's Nuclear Power School, he served as a nuclear power and propulsion plant supervisor. He holds a bachelor's degree from Excelsior College and a Lean Sigma black belt. Jay, thank you so much for being with us today. Just say next when you wish the slides to advance, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you everyone for giving me a chance to introduce a new initiative we are trying to implement here at Conair. Next slide, please. First of all, I want to introduce you to Conair. Conair is not an airplane full of convicts, nor is it the hair drying company that a lot of people are familiar with. We are a plastics auxiliary equipment manufacturer. We are a mid-sized industrial company. We have less than 500 employees. We're privately held but profitable, and we're operating in a very mature market with thousands of customers around the globe. We also support products that are over 60 years old. Next slide, please. As Jan stated, my name is Jay Kriner. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I hold a Certified Maintenance and Reliability Professional certification from the Society of Maintenance and Reliability Professionals. I've been in manufacturing for about 6 years now, first as a maintenance manager for a pulp and paper plant, and now, as stated, I'm the service manager, but recently changed over to customer care support manager for Conair. And I'll talk about the change here shortly. Next slide, please. In 2018, our upper management started a campaign to ensure maximum uptime for our customers. We wanted to make sure that we were doing everything possible possible to help keep their equipment up and running. A lot of people think about, in the plastics industry, the press itself. Our equipment actually takes and brings raw material to that press to make the product. So when our equipment goes down, it affects the entire line, if not more than one line. So I wanted to look at how our support team can help provide more uptime to our customers. Next slide, please. So with my background in maintenance and reliability, I have a lot of knowledge, articles, books, things of that nature in my background that I can rely back on. And I wanted to first find out, what is uptime? Uptime is that percentage of ideal rate at which a plant operates in a given time period, plus the time for no market demand losses. This comes from Ron Moore's book, Making Common Sense, Common Practice, which is a staple for most reliability engineers. I use that book extensively for studying and referring back to for exams or for things of this nature. What does all those words really mean? It means uptime is the amount of time that the equipment is going to operate minus any process, quality, or changeover losses. Next slide, please. So to be able to determine uptime, we also have to talk about downtime. This is your standard 5S model of downtime, but we have to look at not what downtime is, we have to look at what as service providers do, what downtime do we affect? Well, we really only have an effect on two types of downtime: scheduled downtime and unscheduled downtime. How do we control these parameters? Some of the ways we control downtime is to minimize time it takes to perform preventive maintenance, to only perform preventive maintenance when it is necessary, and to provide information and training to our customers to help identify the problems so that when they do have this downtime, whether it's scheduled or unscheduled, we reduce the amount of time they're actually down. So next slide, please. So one of the first things we looked at was, how can we make some small changes in our organization that can have a huge impact on helping out our customers. We took some time to really look over. I went to some customer experience conferences in New York and in Toronto. I brought some of that back, and I sat down with myself and my vice president and some of the other managers in our department, and we said, okay, we're going to come up with a customer support strategy. And one of the first things we did was to reorganize our day-to-day operations. So next slide, please. So one of the first things that we were able to identify were customers were calling in, and customers would call you would dial 1 for service, 2 for parts. Well, customers would come in and sometimes they would push 1 and need some parts. They would push 2 and need service. So we were seeing a lot of pushing back and forth. If they would call in with a service issue, they would have to send it back over to parts. Sometimes parts would have to send it back over to service. What we did was we coordinated and created almost a call center mentality where the first line of people, we have 5 people that man the phones, and we try to make sure that those 5 people are equipped to answer either parts calls or service calls. Very low if they call in with their parts number, they can get the parts ordered out and shipped out to them very efficiently. If it's a small service request, whether it be a manual, a diagram, certain things that are kind of really easy for these people to take care of, they are the front line. They take care of it really quick. We're seeing about 40 to 45% of calls coming in completed by that group of people. The next thing we wanted to do was we wanted to migrate away from, everybody thinks of service as a break-fix provider. We wanted to migrate away into more of a proactive maintenance provider. And then I'll talk about that more later on in the slides. The last thing we wanted to make sure was we provided training and tools to our technicians and also to our customers. When we go out, our technicians are now trained on specific tools that a lot of people don't see in industry. They're also getting some more in-depth training training. I'll talk about that training also later on. Next slide, please. We also created some new service offerings. Some of the things we already performed, the training and the preventive maintenance, we were already offering to our customers. We started developing contracts for our customers where we can come in. I'm seeing a lot of, every 6 months we come in and we look at how their equipment is running. We give them some recommendations on how to operate it a little better, making sure that they're getting some preventive maintenance. I don't want to steal the rest of my show right up front, but these contracts are really kind of an a la carte choice among the 3 items below the contracts: assessments, training, and preventive maintenance offerings. So I'll talk about training and preventive maintenance first, and then we'll go into assessments at the end. So next slide, please. So when we were developing our proactive maintenance strategy, our strategy that we were going to give to our customers, we thought, what really encompasses proactive maintenance? And first of all, proactive maintenance is a strategy to avoid failures or to identify defects that could lead to failures. It includes preventive and predictive maintenance activities and work tasks identified from these. That comes from the Professional's Guide to Maintenance and Reliability. Also, proactive maintenance is all work tasks completed to avoid failures or identify defects that could lead to failures. And that's out of Maintenance and Reliability Best Practices. Those are a couple of books that I pulled those definitions out of. But we decided our strategy was going to be made up of 3 things: training, preventive maintenance, and condition-based maintenance. And when we created that strategy, we said, okay, what do we need to do to fill each of those buckets for not only ourselves, but for our customers? So next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so training. I want to kind of go back in time. Training, I used to view training as an obstacle. Training was, we were taking people away from productive work to go do something that had to be done. When I was in the Navy, we had to have 1 hour of training per day. Every day, Monday through Friday, when we were on the ship, we had at least an hour of training. And then at the end of the week, we would get an exam to make sure we still knew exactly what we were taught during the rest of the week. So then I started getting outside of the Navy, so I wasn't around that all the time. And I started trying to get some technicians to start going to training. We've all had those technicians. I've got tons of experience. I've been doing this for so many years. Why do I need to go to training? So later on, I learned that training is actually preventive maintenance for our people. It's preventive maintenance for ourselves and for our people. It gives us a chance to learn the latest and greatest terminologies, technologies, and things. It gives us an understanding of basic theories behind the items that we're working on. So instead of just giving them a bunch of tools and saying, go out and fix things, we're teaching them fundamentals and the basics that is giving them a foundation to be successful when they go do work for us. All right, so next slide, please. So skills gap. Everywhere you go, you're going to hear about the skills gap. We have a huge skills gap. Everybody knows it. We have quick turnaround on our workforce, so that creates a skills gap because you have to retrain people when they come in. Our workforces are older. Just in general, workforces are older. We're starting to see some influx of younger people, but all of our skilled technicians, people that have, kind of been trained by the people before us, they're getting ready to retire. We've had 2 retire from our facility in the last 2 years, very quick. We didn't expect it. Boom, they retired. So now we were finding ourselves trying to figure out how are we going to backfill those vacancies. For a long time, everybody was told to go to college. Don't go to work, go to college. You'll be a better person for it. I believe that college is a great venue, but a great place for training. But I also think we need some people in the trades that are being trained on how to fix electrical equipment, fix mechanical equipment, and things of that nature. Next slide, please. So some things we looked at internally. First, I'll talk about what we are doing for our customers. When we go in and perform an assessment or preventive maintenance or training to our customers, we ask that technicians and operators are there with us. When we're doing assessments, we would like one, if not both of them, to walk around with our technicians. What this does is it teaches them what is good, what to look for when they're actually operating the equipment. Do they notice the oil that's leaking on this pump over here? And it also provides them with some information. They get to talk the same talk we talk. They get to learn the terms that we use so that when they call in and ask for help, we know more of what they're talking about. Next thing was we needed to develop our technicians internally. And it's not just the field technicians, the ones going out in the field, but also the ones answering the phones day to day. So what we did was we created a Conair certified technician. We have 3 levels. The first level really covers foundation, teaching them what is blending, what is drying, what is conveying. Level 2 is more of a field service. Our field service technicians become trained on techniques on how to navigate through our controls, how to identify our equipment, the different types of equipment that we have, how to troubleshoot some of that. They're also required to get multiple hours of either fixing or OJT with a certified technician. They're required to be with them, or they actually get the OJT out in the field. Then level 3 is more for our senior field technicians and our product specialists. We have 6 product lines in our company, and each product line has its own support specialist. So they're responsible to have that information, and they're actually the trainers of everybody. So level 3, really, we're just starting to create and implement right now. We're going through the plan on what is actually going to be the requirements for our level 3 courses. But level 2 is pretty set in place. We're starting to get people certified. And actually, through this program, we're also bringing our contractors in and teaching them both of these. We're teaching them level 1 and level 2 as well. But for our people that are inside, that are on the phones, that are talking to customers all the time, and for our technicians, last year we had someone come in and give us technical report writing training. With that training, our technicians get a better understanding of what we're going to be requiring in our reports. It's also helping our phone support technicians, where they are able to write more clear and more concise, and it's consistent across all areas with the field and with the phone people. Everything's starting to look the same, so we're starting to see an improvement on that side. But we also had to teach some of our technicians. Most of them just came off the floor. They're used to going in, working on equipment, and walking out. We had to teach them the soft skills of talking with customers, how to handle good and bad customers. So that's how we kind of helped improve our technicians. Next slide, please. So the next area I'm going to talk about, everybody's very familiar with. We all talk about it. Preventive maintenance. We see it on our vehicles. We see it on our equipment at home. But I'm going to kind of take a different look at it. Preventive maintenance is good, and it can be bad as well. So we'll look at both of those. So next slide, please. One of the things we all know is preventive maintenance is out there, but a lot of preventive maintenance gets missed. Why does it get missed? Customers don't have time. They don't have resources. They don't get the time to shut down. They don't want to shut down. They had a failure last night that kept the line down for 6 hours, and they don't have time to shut down. So we all know that preventive maintenance is going to get missed. The problem with that is that the equipment is going to fail sooner than we expect. So next slide, please. One of the things I like to tell my technicians and tell customers, if you don't schedule time for maintenance, your equipment will schedule it for you. And the problem with that lies in that it is going to schedule it at the time that you don't have any control. It is going to schedule it at 3 o'clock on Saturday morning when everybody's at home in bed. It's never going to be Monday at 8:30 when everybody's in, nobody's sick, nobody's called out. We've all probably experienced that at some time. So next slide, please. So when we go out and do preventive maintenance, we provide recommendations to customers on performing what preventive maintenance to perform and the frequency of that preventive maintenance. If you look at the pictures from the earlier slide, it showed a filter. That filter probably needs to be have a preventive maintenance performed on it at least shiftly, if not more often than that. Perform the key when we go in. We also try to perform key preventive maintenance items that are missed. We saw this. That's an actual filter that we saw out in the field doing one of our assessments, and when we did do that maintenance, we saw an immediate improvement in the operation of the equipment, and I'll talk about that a little later. We teach our customers, technicians, how to perform the preventive maintenance properly based on our the training of our technicians, the experience of our technicians. We also teach them as to why it is important. And then when we're done with that assessment, we provide our customers with a report of what exactly we accomplished and our recommendations for going forward, which ones they should really focus on, which PMs they may be able to draw out a little bit more, which PMs they may need to bring in and perform more often. Next slide, please. So this slide is about condition-based maintenance. I'm relying back on my 8 years of doing these type of inspections for the Coast Guard. What you see in front of you is what's commonly referred to as a P to F curve. It's point of failure to functional failure curve, and it shows the condition of a piece of equipment through time, basically looking at it as when a failure occurs. So in the first section, this is where you try to design out when you're designing your equipment. This is where we're providing information to our engineers and to our shop floor personnel. When we're designing our equipment, we're trying to design out any large failures that we see. The next is installation. We have spent hours and lots of funding teaching our installation crew to make sure they're doing precision installation of our equipment. We don't want a sloppy installation done and then you have to go back and repair it. One of the biggest ones that comes to mind is installation crews would just connect wires inside of a panel, and then when our technicians would come in and try to fix that panel, they would see that there's no wires that had labels on them. So we didn't know which wires were which. Some of them were wired differently. So teaching them all how to do the installation the same way, again, it gives us that clear, concise, and consistent completion of work, and then our technicians know what to expect when they open up our panels. As we move to the right of the curve, we have the point of failure. I relay back to bearings. I have done a lot of work on rotating equipment, so my background is in bearings more than anything else. I like to think of a bearing failure that occurs, and at that point of failure, what that is just a small little hairline crack that's happening subsurface. If you were to pull that bearing out, let's say preventive maintenance had changed the bearing, if you were to pull that out, you would see nothing wrong with that bearing. And you would be replacing a good bearing with one that could not be good. And you're also performing a preventive maintenance that could cause a failure if it's not done properly. So as that crack or that fissure grows, you're moving down towards the right into the condition-based maintenance and planned and preventive maintenance stages of this curve. What the points are at the top are the technologies used to identify where those problems occur. The key is to identify the problem earlier in the process before it gets to that functional failure. We all know what a functional failure is because you're going to hear it, you're going to smell it, you're going to see it, you're going to touch it. It's going to be hot to repairs is increasing almost at the same rate that the curve is decreasing as you move across the timeline. Next slide, please. So why do we talk about condition-based maintenance? Why are we doing these assessments? Preventive maintenance is costly. Most preventive maintenance items require equipment to be shut down. Some are overperformed. I go back to my bearing analogy, where there's preventive maintenance items out there that say grease this bearing with 2 pumps of grease every month. Well, if it doesn't need grease, you're putting 2 pumps of grease into it, and then next month you're putting 2 more in, and it doesn't need 2 more. You're putting more and more grease into the motor or into the bearing, and then it seeps out into the motor. I've seen photographs where the actual motor cavity of a motor is seized up with grease and has caused the equipment to fail. Some preventive maintenances have no value. I've tried to have an analogy for one, and it escapes me right now. So, next slide, please. So what are we doing for our customers? One of the things is we now perform an ultrasonic test where we can identify air leaks from our actual equipment, actually all equipment. We walk down the whole plant, and we can usually do that within a few hours and identify air leaks in their system, save thousands of dollars per year if these items are fixed, whether they fix them or we fix them. Normally we're seeing about $2,000 to $5,000 per year savings for our customers if these repairs are made. Older facilities, I think, will get a bigger return on investment than what we're seeing on some of these newer plants that we're doing them in. But we don't just do our equipment. Like I said, we do the whole plant all the way back to the air compressor. Using infrared, we identify loose electrical connections inside panels. These can lead to either equipment failures or fires. Communications aren't coming through properly and causes problems with the equipment running as it's supposed to. We also use infrared as photographs in our reports to show customers exactly what we're talking about. That it's kind of reinforcing that some of the recommendations we make when we show them this pump is operating at 151 F. This pump is operating at 104 F, both with the same duty cycle, both with the same times they're supposed to be on. This one's operating at 150 F because we found that the shroud, the actual fan, had failed inside the shroud of the motor. We also provide what I like to call a not in the weeds look at the equipment. We see things that are normally overlooked. You think of a fresh pair of eyes coming into your facility, into their facility, and giving them something. The filter that I showed you, I keep referring back to filters and bearings. Those are kind of my comfort areas. But the filter, when we first showed up, we pulled it out and we saw this filter. That pump was operating at about 15 inches of vacuum. We actually cleaned the filter up, showed the customer how it was supposed to look, put the filter back in, and it reduced vacuum down about 10 to 11 inches, which is right where we wanted to operate. What that does is that actually allows the system to operate better, and it also reduces the wear on the internals of the blower. But we're still looking for more ways to provide levels of assessments to our customers. We're having some difficulty getting customers interested in us coming in and doing these types of assessments. You hear I don't need another list for me to complete. But I think it's very important because this helps to identify the things that have to be fixed now and get them scheduled and get them completed before the actual equipment fails. Next slide, please. So we're still looking for new ways to provide uptime to our customers. any suggestions from anybody on the phone. Again, I'm always looking for ways to improve our processes, and it's not just through the assessments that we're doing for our customers or contracts to our customers. I'm always looking for improvements inside our call center. So any suggestions from the group, I am always open for more suggestions. Next slide, please. And if you have any, or you just want to talk or reach out, this is my contact information. I will say the best way to get a hold of me is through that email. I don't really have much else, Jan, so thank you. And I'll turn it back over to you, Jane.
Okay, thanks, Jay. And we really enjoyed your presentation. Before I present the questions submitted, do we have any live questions? Again, it's *6 to unmute your line and go ahead with your question. Or you can click anywhere on this last slide and type your question as a comment. So again, any live questions? Okay, Jay, we've received several questions throughout your presentation. Keep in mind you may have touched on these topics, but I'm going to ask all of the questions anyway, in case there's something you'd like to add or elaborate on. Okay, the first question that came in was, did you introduce all these changes at once, or did you phase them in?
So this was somewhat phased. The call center was kind of its own entity, so that was a big part. So it was kind of its own road, but we're slowly bringing in the contract phase. Last year was a big effort on the training part of it, where we were training our technicians and training customers. The call center changeover was towards the end of last year. This year's our focus on as I said, the level 3 training, and then the contracts, assessments, and preventive maintenance offerings.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question that came in is, how did your customers react? Did you get any pushback?
We were getting some pushback, like I said, on the assessments. I haven't heard anything bad about our new call center setup. We're seeing more. We just started doing surveys, which I guess I could have brought up as well. We started adding customer surveys to anytime we send a technician out in the field. The customer the next Monday will receive a customer satisfaction survey, and we're seeing NPS scores of 40s to 60s, so they're pretty happy with our technicians. I think we can just give them more than what we're currently giving them.
Okay, good. And the last question that came in, Jay, is how did you continue to provide customer support while you had team members tied up in training?
So it was difficult. We rely a lot on, so out in the field, we have about 30 contractors that we use. So once a year, I have all of our technicians come in and we give training. So it's really one day a year where I affect the entire department. But we have contractors that go out and provide field support for our customers. But normally what I try to do is I rotate through. So one technician comes in this month, one technician comes in this month. So I kind of rotate through. And I've got them paired up. So each of our technicians, like I said, we have product specialists that take care of 6 different product lines. So each of our field service techs, they have a primary focus for what they're very good in, and then they have to be fairly good in everything else. But we're also teaching them a backup. So one person that could be a conveying is also working on heat transfer right now. And then we also are doing that with our call center, where they have a primary focus on something that they're really good in, but they're kind of good in everything else. So what we try to do is pair those people up and send them out to go to training together and then come back in and rotate through our department.
Okay, Jay, I think we've covered everybody's questions. Do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to share before we end the summit today?
I would just say that this is not something that we're expecting to be completing overnight. We're taking a very slow and methodical pace in implementing it. I'm hoping to be able to come back here in a year maybe and have some good information on exactly how good it's going.
That'd be great. And on behalf of all the executives on the line, I'd like to thank you for sharing such powerful ideas and key thoughts with us today. Your involvement and dedication to our profession sets a high benchmark for others to follow. For all of the participants on today's call, thank you for your continued membership and insightful questions for today's speaker. The meeting's now officially concluded. And Jay, thank you so much again. And everybody have a great day.
Thank you as well.